Every year, new roller coasters are opening all over the world, each with something different to offer. Newer rides like Velocicoaster are well liked for their airtime and hangtime moments, but in 10 to 20 years' time, will those rides still be so highly regarded? Despite how good Velocicoaster is, the answer is probably not, because the roller coaster elements that are popular and well liked today will change over time. I've noticed that roller coasters seem to have their own trends, with different ride types, elements, and potentially ride themes falling in and out of fashion. Roller coaster trends are just like any trend, with 5 main stages that happen over time. Stage 1, where something new is introduced. Stage 2, where there is a rise in popularity. Stage 3, where whatever's trending reaches its peak. Stage 4, where we see a decline as whatever's trending becomes overused or becomes less interesting. And Stage 5, where something becomes out of fashion and barely used. Inversions are an example of an element that used to be used on a lot of roller coasters. Of course, inversions are still used in ride layouts today, just slightly less than before. The first inversion on a roller coaster was in 1895, but they started being used more in the 1970s, where roller coasters with 2 and 3 inversions started to open. When inversions first started being used in ride layouts, they captured people's interest as it was something that was new and exciting. Parks were innovating and finding new ways to flip their riders upside down. As time went on, theme parks kept adding more and more inversions to their rides, breaking the inversion record over and over until after the Smiler opened in 2013. The inversion record hasn't been broken since, and a lot of rides that have opened recently haven't had as much focus on inversions. Wooden coasters in general are an example of a group of rides that used to be popular, but aren't so much anymore. Back when roller coasters first started to be built, steel coasters didn't exist, so theme parks could only use wood. But as steel coasters became widely used, less and less wooden coasters are being built. Back in the 40s, 39 wooden coasters and 13 steel coasters opened. Fast forward to the 2010s, where 40 wooden coasters and 2,656 steel coasters opened. That's a pretty big difference. Of course, there were times where the amount of wooden coasters opening increased, like how 22 opened in the 80s and then 57 opened in the 90s. However, the amount of steel coasters that opened was still a lot higher. Sometimes, after trends start to die out, they get revived and reinvented. Stand-up coasters are an example of this. Stand-up coasters started to be introduced in 1979 by Togo. In the late 1980s, Intamin introduced their own version of the model, and in the 1990s, B&M created their own. In the 90s, 10 stand-up coasters opened, while in the 2010s, only 2 stand-up coasters opened, and some of these rides started getting removed or converted into sit-down coasters. But in 2023, B&M reinvented this model with the introduction of the surf coaster. They changed the seats and restraints in an attempt to make stand-up coasters more enjoyable. I really enjoyed Pipeline the surf coaster, so I'm hoping that more parks install them and stand-up coasters can start to make a comeback. I mentioned earlier that ride themes could potentially fall in and out of fashion too. Here in the UK, a lot of our rides, mainly at Thorpe Park and Alton Towers, feature dark themes, such as an evil alien in a valley, evil robot aliens, being hypnotised and experimented on, a horror movie, and being sacrificed to a giant burning man. These dark themes have been used throughout our theme parks for the past 30 years, but with the opening of Hyperia at Thorpe Park, which had a much brighter theme, the introduction of less intimidating ride themes could start to happen at UK parks. But what kind of elements are trendy now? In my opinion, it's airtime and the feeling of weightlessness. Quite a few rides which have opened recently have this as a major part of their layout. For example, Velocicoaster, which opened in 2021, Iron Gwazi, which opened in 2022, and Hyperia in 2024. Both Iron Gwazi and Hyperia have had their airtime moments or moments of weightlessness mentioned by the park on their websites, with Iron Gwazi being described as having a dozen airtime moments, and Hyperia being described as the UK's tallest, fastest, and most weightless coaster. These parks making an effort to mention how much airtime or how many seconds of weightlessness their ride has, or even just building layouts that feature these aspects, shows that they know that airtime and feelings of weightlessness are what's currently a desirable characteristic in roller coasters. If you think I missed any roller coaster trends, which I probably have, why not let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video and you're interested in theme park content, feel free to subscribe so you can be notified when I next upload. Thanks for watching, bye!